The quantum ripple appeared in lunar orbit on a Wednesday afternoon. Dr. Elena Santos watched from the lunar observatory as space itself seemed to fold, revealing a vessel that defied conventional physics. Its surface rippled like mercury in zero gravity, reflecting the harsh lunar landscape in countless facets. Processing the readings now, she announced to the hastily assembled emergency committee on Earth, her voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. At 43, Elena had spent her career searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence. Now that they had arrived, she found herself oddly calm. The vessel's surface shifted, revealing patterns that seemed to follow mathematical sequences. Perfect geometric shapes emerged and dissolved in endless iterations. Elena's AI assistant flagged something interesting in the data stream. The patterns, she said, they're not random. They're expressing prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, and, wait. She leaned closer to her display. They're showing us DNA structures, our DNA structures. General Marcus Chen of the United Earth Defense Force leaned forward in his chair at Mission Control. They're telling us they know us, he said, his weathered face betraying no emotion. Question is, for how long? The answer came 3 hours later. The alien vessel transmitted its first message, a perfect holographic projection that appeared simultaneously in every major city on Earth. The being that appeared was humanoid, but moved with an unsettling precision. Its skin had a metallic sheen, and its eyes held no pupils, just swirling patterns of geometric light. People of Earth, it began, its voice a harmony of mathematical frequencies. We are the Meridian Collective. We have watched your species evolve from primitive tool users to spacefaring pioneers. Your potential is significant, but your path is inefficient. We offer optimization. Elena noticed something odd about the transmission. The aliens' movements followed strict patterns, each gesture precise, measured, repeating at exact intervals. It was almost like, "They're running on algorithms," she muttered, reaching for her tablet. "Their entire presentation is mathematically structured." The Meridian continued. Your species suffers from emotional contamination. Your decisions are corrupted by feelings. Your societies are chaotic. We can help you achieve pure rationality. Join us, and we will eliminate the weakness of emotion from your genetic code. In the silence that followed, Elena's fingers flew across her keyboard. Analyzing the transmission patterns, something wasn't adding up. The Meridian's technology was clearly advanced, but their communication was rigid, predictable. Every element followed mathematical rules that even her basic analysis programs could start to decode. General Chen saw it too. "They're not just offering to help us," he said quietly. "They're telling us what they've done to themselves." The next few days brought more transmissions, each following the same precise patterns. The Meridian spoke of optimization, of eliminating chaos, of achieving computational perfection. But Elena and her team were starting to see beyond the words. "Look at their ship," she told the emergency committee, pointing to new sensor data. "Its movements are exact, predictable. They follow the same patrol pattern down to the millimeter. No living captain would be that precise. They turned themselves into living computers. And now they want to do the same to us." Chen added, his voice grim. "The question is, why? What would a civilization that values pure logic want with humanity?" The answer came buried in the Meridian's own transmissions. Elena found it hidden in their mathematical patterns, a message they didn't seem to know they were sending. Their population was declining. Their perfect logic had led to perfect stagnation. They needed new variables in their equation. They needed humanity's chaos. "This isn't first contact," Elena told the committee as the first week drew to a close. "This is an invasion hiding behind mathematics. They don't want to help us evolve. They want to harvest whatever makes us human while it's still pure." As if to confirm her theory, the Meridian ship began deploying smaller vessels. Each one moved with the same mechanical precision, establishing a perfectly symmetrical grid in Earth's orbit. Their patterns were beautiful, Alina had to admit, and utterly predictable. "They think our emotions make us weak," she said, watching the ships move like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. "But they've forgotten something fundamental about evolution." She turned to face the committee, a slight smile playing at her lips. "Chaos isn't weakness. It's nature's way of adapting. And they've engineered it right out of themselves." General Chen nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "So we don't need to match their technology," he said. "We just need to be what they can't be anymore: unpredictable." The Meridians had come to eliminate humanity's chaos. Instead, they were about to discover why evolution had given it to us in the first place. As Alina watched their ships continue their perfect patterns, she couldn't help but wonder, what happens when you pit perfect logic against the beautiful chaos of human intuition? The answer, she suspected, would redefine the very nature of intelligence itself. Dr. Alina Santos stood before the holographic display in the Lunar Observatory's main chamber, watching as another Meridian probe attempted to scan human brain patterns. Like all their previous attempts, this one followed an exact, predictable sequence. The probe would approach a population center, emit a precise pattern of quantum signals, then retreat to analyze the data. "They still don't understand what they're looking at," she said, turning to face Dr. Raj Patel, the team's neuropsychologist. "Every time they scan us, they seem more confused." Raj nodded, his eyes fixed on the neural activity readings streaming in from their global sensor network. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a particular data set. "When we showed the Meridians abstract art last week, their ships actually paused their scanning sequence for 3.7 seconds. They had to recalibrate. The discovery had been accidental. During one of the Meridian's early scanning attempts, a museum curator in Paris had been hosting a digital exhibition of surrealist paintings. The alien probe's behavior had noticeably glitched when it encountered the nonlinear, emotional expressions of human creativity. They can't process metaphors, Alina realized, watching another probe struggle to analyze a poetry reading in Tokyo. Their logic is so rigid, they can only understand literal meanings. Everything else disrupts their patterns. General Chen entered the chamber, followed by a team of military analysts. "We've detected something concerning," he said, bringing up a new holographic overlay. "The Meridians aren't just scanning us. They're starting to insert something into our global networks." The display showed streams of quantum data flowing through Earth's communication systems like digital mercury. At first glance, it looked like random noise, but Alina saw the pattern immediately. "It's a logic virus," she said, her voice tight with concern. "They're trying to optimize our systems, make them more like theirs." Rad's fingers flew across his console, analyzing the alien code. "It's more than that," he said. "These patterns, they're designed to influence human thought processes, make us more receptive to their way of thinking. More predictable." The implications were chilling. The Meridians weren't planning a conventional invasion. They were trying to remake humanity from the inside out, one neural pattern at a time. "But look at this," Alina said, highlighting a section of data. "Every time their code encounters human creativity, art, music, poetry, it has to reroute, find a new pattern. It's like they can't compute the full spectrum of human consciousness." General Chen studied the display, his tactical mind already seeing possibilities. "So their greatest strength is also their weakness," he said. "Their perfect logic can't handle human irrationality." "Not just irrationality," Raj corrected, excitement creeping into his voice. "Imagination, intuition, everything that makes us uniquely human. They've engineered these traits out of themselves, so they don't know how to counter them." Alina watched as another Meridian probe withdrew from a scan, its patterns briefly disrupted by a street performer's improvisational dance. "They think in straight lines," she said, "but human consciousness moves in spirals, loops, and quantum leaps they can't predict." The team worked through the night, analyzing the Meridians' code and their reactions to human behavior. A pattern emerged, or rather, a pattern of breaking patterns. Every time humans acted in ways that defied pure logic, the alien systems showed microscopic delays, tiny glitches in their perfect sequences. It's like watching a computer try to understand poetry, Raj said, reviewing the data. They can analyze the words, the structure, even the historical context, but they can't feel the meaning. And without that feeling, they can't predict how it will affect others. General Chen received an urgent message from Earth Command. The Meridians have announced their next phase, he said grimly. They're launching what they call neural optimization probes tomorrow. Devices designed to begin rewriting human consciousness on a massive scale. Elena looked at the streams of data flowing across her display, the rigid, predictable patterns of meridian logic trying to impose order on the beautiful chaos of human thought. They still think our emotions make us weak, she said. They don't understand that chaos is what lets us adapt, create, survive. She turned to face her colleagues, a plan forming in her mind. If they want to optimize us, let's show them what they've lost. Not just emotion, but everything that comes with it. Creativity, intuition, the ability to make quantum leaps of understanding that no purely logical system can follow. You want to fight their logic with our chaos, General Chen said, a slight smile playing at his lips. Hit them with so much human irrationality that their systems can't cope. Exactly, Elena replied. They've forgotten that the universe isn't just mathematics. It's art and music and poetry and love. All the things they engineered out of themselves because they couldn't quantify them. As the Meridian ships continued their perfect orbital patterns above, humanity began to prepare its most unconventional defense yet. They wouldn't fight with weapons alone, but with every unpredictable, irrational, beautifully human trait the aliens had sacrificed in their quest for perfection. The real question was, could beings of pure logic survive an encounter with the chaos they'd spent millennia trying to eliminate? The answer would determine not just humanity's fate, but the very future of consciousness itself. The holographic display in the Lunar Observatory's command center painted the room in ethereal blue light as Dr. Elena Santos and her team watched the Meridian's neural optimization probes descend toward Earth. Each probe moved with mechanical precision, forming perfect geometric patterns in the atmosphere. They're targeting major population centers first, General Chen observed, his fingers tracing the probe's trajectories on the tactical display. Seoul, New York, Lagos, Mumbai. Look at their distribution pattern, Elena said, highlighting the mathematical sequence. It's not just strategic. It's beautiful in a cold way, like a crystal growing in zero gravity. Dr. Raj Patel burst into the command center, his tablet displaying streams of new data. You need to see this, he said, connecting his device to the main display. We've cracked their base code. The pattern recognition team found something incredible. The display filled with cascading lines of meridian programming. But unlike previous samples, this code had been partially decoded. What it revealed made Elena's breath catch in her throat. They're not just collecting data, she said, reading through the translation. They're harvesting consciousness itself. Every human mind they scan, they're looking for something specific, something they lost. Raj nodded enthusiastically. Their entire civilization runs on what they call pure logic, mathematical certainty without any chaos or creativity. But their population is declining because you can't evolve without chaos, Elena finished, understanding dawning in her eyes. They engineered out everything that makes adaptation possible. Now they're dying, and they think they can extract those traits from us without the contamination of emotion. General Chen studied the decoded patterns. So when they scan us, they're looking for the source of our creativity, our ability to make intuitive leaps, Raj explained. But they can't understand it because they can't process anything that doesn't follow their mathematical rules. It's like trying to measure poetry with a ruler. Elena watched as another wave of probes entered the atmosphere, their movements as predictable as clockwork. We've been thinking about this wrong, she said slowly. We've been trying to find patterns in their behavior to predict their next move. But what if that's exactly what they want? What if their perfect patterns are a trap? She pulled up the global defense grid, highlighting the human military units that have been repositioned to counter the Meridian threats. Look at how we've adapted to their movements. We're starting to think like them, becoming more predictable ourselves. A mimetic virus, Raj breathed. Their very presence is changing how we think, making us more like them without direct intervention. General Chen's expression darkened. Then we need to do the opposite, he said. Instead of matching their patterns, we break them, Elena finished, not just with weapons, but with pure human chaos. Art, music, dance, poetry. Everything that follows emotional logic instead of mathematical certainty. She turned to her console, fingers flying across the holographic keys. Look at their code structure. Every decision they make has to follow predefined logical paths. They literally can't process actions that don't compute within their framework. A weakness hidden in plain sight, Chen mused. Their perfect logic makes them perfectly predictable. Elena nodded, excitement building in her voice. And more than that, it makes them vulnerable to anything truly random, anything that can't be reduced to pure mathematics. They've engineered out their ability to handle chaos, and chaos is humanity's natural state. The team worked through the night, analyzing years of Meridian transmissions and behavior patterns. They found more evidence supporting their theory. Tiny gaps in the aliens' perfect logic, microscopic delays when faced with human unpredictability. It's like they're running on quantum computers that can only process certain types of equations, Raj explained to the Emergency Council. Anything outside their mathematical framework causes system errors, and human consciousness operates largely outside their framework. Elena stood before the council, her presentation showing the Meridian's neural optimization, probes continuing their perfect descent patterns. They think they're coming to fix us, to optimize our chaos into their kind of order. But they don't understand what that chaos really is. She highlighted a section of decoded Meridian code. They see our emotions, our creativity, our intuition as bugs in our programming. But they're not bugs. They're features. Evolution's answer to a universe too complex for pure logic to comprehend. General Chen stepped forward. So how do we fight an enemy that operates on perfect logic? Elena smiled, bringing up a new display. A battle plan unlike anything in military history. We embrace everything they abandoned. We show them why evolution chose chaos over order, creativity over pure logic. We remind them what they lost when they decided to become living computers. As the council studied her plan, Elena watched the Meridian probes continue their descent, each one following its perfect, predictable path. Soon they would learn why humanity had never chosen to optimize away its chaos, why Earth's greatest minds had always known that true intelligence required both logic and intuition. The Meridians had come to fix what they saw as humanity's greatest flaw. Instead, they were about to discover why that flaw might be the greatest strength in the universe. Operation Starcross launched at dawn. Dr. Elena Santos watched from the lunar observatory as humanity unleashed its most unconventional defense in history. Instead of missiles or energy weapons, Earth's militaries launched thousands of small drones, each one broadcasting something the Meridians couldn't compute, pure human creativity. First wave launching now, General Chen announced, his voice steady as he coordinated the global response. Above every major city targeted by the Meridian probes, the drones formed seemingly random patterns, each one projecting different forms of human expression into space. Over New York, classical music filled the airwaves, its emotional crescendos disrupting the Meridian's precise scanning patterns. Above Tokyo, holographic displays of abstract art twisted through the sky. In Lagos, traditional African drums beat rhythms too complex for the aliens' mathematical minds to predict. Their probes are slowing, Raj reported, monitoring the alien responses, pattern recognition algorithms failing. They're trying to establish new scanning protocols, but can't match our rhythm changes. Elena studied the tactical display, watching as the Meridian probe's perfect geometric formations began to waver. "Look at their ship movements," she said, highlighting the subtle changes. "They're trying to adapt, but their programming won't let them deviate from established patterns." The second wave began. In orbit, Earth's defense satellites started broadcasting centuries of human literature, poetry, stories, metaphors that the Meridians' literal minds couldn't process. Their ship's perfect formation started showing signs of strain as their systems struggled to categorize the incoming data. "We're getting unusual readings from their command ship," Raj announced, his eyes wide as he studied the sensor data. "Parts of their neural network are activating that haven't shown any activity before. It's like they're remembering something." Helena leaned closer to the display. They engineered emotion out of their species, but they couldn't completely erase it. Some part of them still remembers what it was like to feel, to create, to imagine. Over Mumbai, a swarm of drones projected massive mandalas into the sky, their patterns shifting and flowing in ways that defied mathematical prediction. The Meridian probes near the city began moving erratically, their perfect precision breaking down as they encountered patterns they couldn't optimize. "Their main fleet is responding," General Chen reported, watching as larger Meridian vessels began to move from their orbital positions. "But look at their formation. It's not their standard attack pattern." Elena studied the alien ship's movements. They were still geometric, still precise, but something had changed. "They're improvising," she said, surprise evident in her voice. "They're trying to create new patterns on the fly. They're learning." "Is that good or bad?" Chen asked, his tactical mind already calculating new scenarios. "Both," Elena replied. "It means we can reach them, break through their programming. But it also means they're adapting faster than we expected." The third wave of Earth's defense began. In every city, human artists, musicians, and dancers began performing in ways that seemed random but contained hidden patterns, patterns that emerged from emotion rather than mathematics. The Meridian ship's movements became increasingly erratic as their systems tried to process this new form of order within chaos. "We're detecting quantum fluctuations in their neural network," Raj reported excitedly. "Their collective consciousness is experiencing something like cognitive dissonance. They can't reconcile their programming with what they're observing." Elena watched as more Meridian ships broke formation, some moving in spirals that mimicked the dance patterns below, others pulsing with lights that seemed to follow the rhythm of human music. "They're not just learning," she said softly. "They're remembering. Every piece of art, every song, every dance is awakening something they thought they'd engineered away." But the Meridians weren't surrendering. As their ships struggled with the assault of human creativity, their central command launched a counterattack. Streams of pure logic, mathematical proofs, perfect geometric patterns, absolute order, poured from their vessels, trying to impose structure on the chaos below. "They're attempting to optimize our transmissions," Raj said, analyzing the alien code, "converting our art and music into mathematical equations, trying to find the patterns that govern human creativity." "They still don't understand," Elena said, watching the battle of order versus chaos unfold above Earth. "You can't reduce everything to mathematics. Some things can only be felt, imagined, dreamed." General Chen received an urgent transmission from Earth Command. "The Meridians are preparing something big," he announced. "Their command ship is generating more power than we've ever seen." Elena studied the readings, her mind racing. The Meridians were planning something desperate, something their pure logic told them was the only remaining solution. But in their desperation, they were about to make their greatest mistake. They were about to act on something dangerously close to an emotion. "They're afraid," she realized, watching the energy build in the alien vessel. Not consciously, but some part of them remembers fear. And fear makes even logical beings act irrationally. As the Meridian command ship's power levels continued to rise, Elena knew they had reached the turning point. The next few moments would determine whether humanity's greatest weapon, its beautiful, unpredictable chaos, would be enough to save not just Earth, but perhaps the meridians themselves. The Meridian command ship's energy signature reached critical levels, its surface rippling with quantum distortions that bent the very fabric of space. Dr. Elena Santos watched from the lunar observatory as the massive vessel began to pulse with a light that defied description, its perfect geometric form starting to blur at the edges. "They're attempting to generate a consciousness wave," Raj announced, his voice tense as he analyzed the readings. "Something that would rewrite all human neural patterns within range. They're trying to force evolution." General Chen's tactical display showed the energy wave building. "Time to impact." 4 minutes, Elena replied, her fingers flying across her console. "But look at the wave pattern. It's not their usual perfect mathematics. There are irregularities, tiny fluctuations that shouldn't exist in their systems." She highlighted a section of the energy signature, expanding it on the main display. "They're not just acting on logic anymore. The chaos we've shown them, the art and music and dance, it's affecting them at a quantum level. They're feeling something." 3 minutes to wave impact, Raj reported. Elena made a decision. Instead of trying to counter the Meridian's attack, she began broadcasting something else entirely: human memories. Not just art or music, but the raw emotional experiences behind them. The joy of creation, the pain of loss, the wonder of discovery, the complexity of love. "What are you doing?" Chen asked, watching as the transmissions reached the Meridian fleet. "Showing them what they lost," Elena replied. "Not just creativity, but the reason creativity exists. The full spectrum of human consciousness they tried to optimize away." The energy wave from the command ship faltered, its perfect pattern disrupting as it encountered the stream of human experiences. The Meridian vessels closest to Earth began emitting erratic energy signatures, their surfaces shifting through impossible colors. 2 minutes, Raj counted down, but his voice held a note of excitement. "Their neural network is experiencing cascade effects. Parts of their collective consciousness that have been dormant for millennia are reactivating." Elena watched as more Meridian ships broke formation, their movements becoming fluid, almost organic. The rigid patterns they had maintained for so long were dissolving into something new, something that combined their mathematical precision with elements of chaos. 1 minute, Raj said softly. The command ship's energy wave collapsed in on itself, transforming from a weapon into something else entirely. Patterns of light danced across its surface, not in perfect geometry anymore, but in swirling, evolving forms that merged mathematics with art. "They're changing," Elena breathed, watching the transformation unfold. "Not just their ships, their entire consciousness is shifting." The first transmission from the Meridians in hours filled the command center, but it was unlike any of their previous communications. Instead of pure mathematical language, it contained something else: metaphor. "We remember," the voice said, its artificial harmony now containing subtle variations that made it almost musical. "We remember what we were before we chose perfect logic. We remember why we chose it. Fear of our own chaos. Fear of our own potential for creation and destruction." Elena stepped forward, addressing the Meridians directly. "And now we understand what we lost," the voice replied. "You showed us that true optimization isn't the elimination of chaos, but its integration. Evolution created emotion, creativity, intuition not as flaws, but as tools for surviving in a universe too complex for pure logic to comprehend." The Meridian ships began moving in new patterns, their formations flowing like schools of fish, maintaining order while embracing fluidity. Their surfaces rippled with colors that expressed not just mathematical sequences, but emotional states. "They're not just remembering emotion," Raj said, studying the readings. "They're rediscovering it, but with their advanced consciousness. They're experiencing feelings with a depth and complexity we can barely imagine." General Chen watched as the Meridian probes withdrew from Earth's atmosphere, their perfect geometric patterns replaced by graceful, organic movements. "Is it over?" "No," Alina said, smiling as she watched the alien ships dance through space. It's just beginning. They came to optimize us. But instead, we helped them remember what real optimization looks like. The perfect balance of logic and chaos, reason and emotion, order and creativity. The Meridian command ship transmitted one final message before the fleet prepared to depart. We came to fix what we thought was broken in humanity. Instead, you showed us what was broken in ourselves. Our civilization will need time to process these changes, to remember how to feel, to create, to imagine. When we return, it will not be as conquerors seeking to impose order, but as equals hoping to share in the beauty of chaos. As the Meridian fleet disappeared into quantum space, their departure marked not by perfect geometric patterns, but by swirling, artistic displays of light and energy. Alina thought about the true nature of evolution. It wasn't about achieving perfection. It was about maintaining the ability to adapt, to change, to grow. The Meridians had discovered what humanity had known all along, that in a universe of infinite possibilities, the greatest strength wasn't the ability to eliminate chaos, but the wisdom to dance with it. They'll be back, she said, watching the last quantum ripples fade from lunar orbit. And next time, they'll bring not just their technology, but their art, their music, their dreams. Because that's what happens when you remember how to be truly alive. You want to share it with the universe. The stars shone steadily in the lunar sky, their ancient light carrying both perfect mathematical patterns and the beautiful chaos of creation. Humanity had faced its greatest test, not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but by remaining true to its most fundamental nature, the ability to feel, to imagine, to create, and most importantly, to share those gifts with others. Evolution's greatest gift, it turned out, wasn't the power to eliminate chaos, but the wisdom to embrace it.